Hey, it's Hugh Hewitt, and when I want to know what's going on with the Cavs, the Browns, and the Tribe, I tune into Sports Fix.
Sports Fix listeners, like us on Facebook today. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix.
Business owners and professionals, do you want to take your business, your product, your team, your event to the next level? You want to advertise right here with the Sports Fix. Our listeners are among the most loyal listeners, terrestrial or internet. The Sports Fix universe is not only the radio show, but tens of thousands of fans on Facebook and Twitter. Email me, Jerry Myers, thesportsfix@AOL.com. That's thesportsfix@AOL.com. And let me help you swing for the fences and hit it out of the park right here on the Sports Fix.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Harry Buffalo. Catch every UFC pay-per-view live in full HD at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Harry Buffalo. Join the herd.
Live in Ohio, it's time to get your fix. The Sports Fix.
Away we go. Welcome in, everybody. Another week is on the air here. Let's pop the cork on this bad boy, the Sports Fix. The latest edition, the latest week, the final. Hey, this will warm you up on a chilly day. Actually, the warm-up already started, at least here in Northeast Ohio over the weekend. A lot of the deep freeze started to thaw out. And you know what, though? Actually, the only good, to me, one of the only good things that comes with a big snow is, well, besides being able to get out and do a little bit of, whether it's sledding, skiing, tobogganing, whatever it is, that kind of fun snow stuff, build snowmen. But to me, when you get a really big dumping like we did, it's when it's all carved out. Everybody gets their driveways done to where you just got mounds of, it looks like the neighborhood was carved out of snow. It's that really cool looking thing for the visual of it. I like that. I'm a big visual guy anyways, but over the weekend that went away, because then when it's 40 over the weekend and everything melts, now you get that ugly, nasty, all that's left is the ice piles that are all dirt with the mud down in the bottom. It just looks nasty now. It just looks all ghetto out there now that everything melted. It went from a postcard to a episode of The Walking Dead out there over the weekend. But anyways, here we go. And you should warm up a little bit more, because today is officially, as we've been counting down, this is the last edition, Monday edition of the Sports Fix. This is the last time that we are going to start a week of the Sports Fix without baseball, of some variation. Actual, they're wearing uniforms and stuff, even if it's, not exactly baseball right away. It's it until October. We've got it locked in. This is the last, as our countdown leads me. I'm flipping off the final little flip there. The last Monday edition with no baseball. No baseball. That'll warm you up a little bit more here as we get into a ton of things to talk about from over the weekend. There's games and news to get into. Cavs. I mean, hey, what did I say the other day? Wouldn't take long to step into the next controversy. A couple of things, to get into from over the weekend. Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fans going to be here. Buckeyes got some controversy going on as well. Some changing of the guard and coaching. A lot of things there we'll talk about. You may have heard some of the stuff coming up over the weekend with the Buckeyes and Michigan and all of that. A ton of things to get into, guys. Let's do it. Let's rock and roll. Welcome into the Sports Fix. I think I said that. I am your host, the Big Daddy on the microphone, J-Rocc, Jerry Myers with you guys again. Starting another week. Each and every weekday, we're here live at noon. Perhaps you join us Eastern Time live on the sportsfix.net, our home base. See, I flipped it up. You didn't see that coming. You knew where I was going, and then bam, I changed it. I do it the same every day. I figured, let's get them. Anyways, the sportsfix.net, your home base, the one-stop shop for all things Cleveland sports. Welcome into those of you listening live worldwide on TuneIn Radio and TuneIn's worldwide radio app and digital devices. Maybe you're listening on Spreaker and Mixlr and their respective digital and mobile apps as well. All the ways that you're joining us live, thank you so much as well. shout out to the thousands of you that listen each and every day in time zones around the world 24/7 on iHeartRadio, the world's largest internet radio provider, over there on Stitcher and Stitcher Radio, SoundCloud, CarPlay, all of the different places that you may download the show, iTunes, perhaps you subscribe to the show, you feed it, however you get it. Thank you guys so much for plugging it into your devices and listening to us throughout the week and every day here on the Sports Fix. Without you guys, there is no Sports Fix. Today, hey, we'll open up the phone lines a little bit too. We've got a little bit of extra time here. John McMullen from the Sports Network, usually with us today. He'll be with us Wednesday here this week. So 216-539-7535 is the number to call. 216-539-7535. You can get through not just live, anytime, as we say, whenever we're here on the show, 24/7. Over the weekend, you got to take something you want to talk about. If you're listening to the show on delay and it's not live, you can still call in and be a part of the conversation that we're having, and we'll play it on the next opportunity. The hotline is real-time, instant takes, 216-539-7535. Be a voice, be a part, be the Sports Fix. If you can't get to the phones, if you're at work like so many of you listening to the show, hard working out there, I can dig it. Use your social media, Facebook and Twitter, baby. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix, or just search for The Sports Fix there in your search box. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix, CLE. Email us, thesportsfix@AOL.com. Again, Facebook.com/The Sports Fix. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix, CLE. Email us, thesportsfix@AOL.com, as we get things rolling here. A couple of things. First, I think really the first thing I want to talk about before we dive into anything sports related, even though obviously this is sports, but passing over the weekend of Dean Smith. I mean, truly one of the, I'll say, people have that mythical Mount Rushmore conversation about stuff. If you're doing college coaches, Dean Smith is on that Mount Rushmore, in my opinion. Just truly one of the greatest coaches. And, I grew up, you guys know, we've talked. Michael Jordan was, as a child, the Cavs were my guys, of course. I was Cleveland. That's how it is when you're growing up. But, my guy that wasn't a Cleveland player was Michael Jordan, of course, as just about every kid that grew up during the 80s, most likely, or at least most of them anyway. And of course, where did he go to college? No, North Carolina. And so that was my de facto, not Ohio State college of choice, man. I loved the powder blue and all of that. So I was digging it. And so why? Because that's why. No other reason other than Michael Jordan. And then I grew to love North Carolina basketball over the years. And I was always a big fan of North Carolina and Dean Smith. So, perhaps I've got a better appreciation than some newer fans because, his era is now a generation removed here. And it took me, I'm sitting here looking back, doing research on years and dates and stuff. And I was like, wow, yeah, it's been a minute. You don't even realize how long it's been since Dean Smith coached. But what are you talking, 1998 until the present, man? That's, I'll put it this way. I've been a pro wrestler for 16 years. I started in 1998, and that was the first season that Dean Smith didn't coach after 36 seasons of being a head coach, from 1961 until the end of the 1997 season there. And all the things, of course, when he retired, he was at the time the leading wins in coaching when he retired in Division I history. All of the on-the-court accolades that you can lay out there for Dean Smith. 11 Final Four appearances, 2 national championships in 82, and then a decade later in 93. All of the conference titles, I think it was 17 ACC regular season titles, 13 in the tournament. All of the different things. All of the various on-court accolades that you can give a guy, and those are huge. And of course, that is a big part of the legacy. To many people, the most important part. Not to me. I'm definitely not one of those guys. I think off the court, and especially when you're teaching at the high school, because that's what coaching is. It's not because it's big money and you got to win games and all of that stuff. There's a reason that they named the building after Dean Smith and all of that, but you're still a teacher at heart, and you're young men are put into your hands, and parents trust you. I know it sounds all so sweet of J-Rocc to look at it that way, but it's true, and that's the other part of it. And you look at all of the guys that came through, and I'm not just talking about the NBA players that came through, and there's a whole lineage of those guys you can go through, but I mean just everybody, the guys you never heard of too, that came through and were better men, because that's one of the things that comes out about Dean Smith from everybody to a man. I mean, you hear, of course, yesterday everybody was quoted. Michael Jordan said, other than my parents, no one had a bigger influence on my life than Coach Smith. He was more than a coach. He was my mentor, my teacher, my second father. Coach was always there for me when I needed him. I loved him for it. In teaching me the game of basketball, he taught me about life. And you guys know, it's one of the reasons that I'm so partial to guys like Coach Waters over at CSU. Guys that, man, they get it done on the basketball court, hell yeah, but they get it done in life. And these kids come out, whether they come out better athletes or not, they come out better people. And I mean, that is important. And I mean, there's so much that I'm brushing over here because I'm using broad strokes. You could get into so many different things in Dean Smith's career as he went through. As I said, the list of NBA players, I mentioned Michael Jordan, but there are so many. James Worthy, I mean, here in Cleveland, Brad Daugherty, of course, Anton Jameson, former Cavalier, Walter Davis, Sam Perkins, J.R. Reed, Jerry Stackhouse, Rasheed Wallace. I mean, it goes on and on. Vince Carter, tons of guys, coaches like Larry Brown and Roy Williams and all kinds of people. George Karl, people that come through. You talk about in football, the Parcells tree and the Belichick tree. Well, same thing there with Coach Smith. And, just nothing but respect comes out when you hear just dozens and dozens into the hundreds of eulogies like that come out yesterday. Then you understand, sometimes a guy goes and you've got his group of people that liked him and they're one side, and the other people are like, not as strong. When it's universal like that, then truly the respect level that people had, and one of the things that I thought was just, and this is just an aside to the story, but as he passes away here, he was 83 years old, and he was, I don't know if it was, I don't know. I don't want to say dementia. I don't know Alzheimer's. I don't know what the actual condition was, but he had a degenerative memory condition over the last few years of his life. And I know I've probably mentioned this before to you guys. I know I have over the years on the radio, but whenever people have, just in general, of course, that if you were to ask me what's one of the biggest things I'm afraid of, it's more than anything else, that thing, that is to me tragic. Anybody, whether you've got a long lineage of incredible memories or you don't, you just lived the life of what you live for 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years, however long it is. I always think that is that's such a shame, that condition of losing the memory of everything you went to. I mean, I've seen people in the throes of it. It's terrible. They're, frightened a lot of times because one minute they know where they are, one minute they don't. But when you've got such a legacy, think we just listed all of those players and the dozens and hundreds and thousands more that he came across over the years that you don't know, that aren't on that list, that weren't NBA All-Stars or first-round draft picks or famous people or presidents or all of these different people that have come out and said stuff, man. But whenever somebody's got all of that added to it, I just think it's even more tragic because it's gone. And, it is what it is, and it happens to people every day. But and that's one of the things I fear the most. I go, man, okay, if the lights go out on you one day, if you don't wake up in the morning, that's the way it goes. And you totally, you wake up every day and you take what life gives you. But that one where it disappears from you a little bit more every day, but you're still alive, that to me is just a tragic existence at the end. And, again, to see that, when you've got such a gets you a little bit more. But anyways, I really wanted to start off the show talking about that because, a lot of times a guy like that disappears. As I said, it's been 16 years now, 17 years, depending on where you date it, since the last time he was out there. That's a whole generation of guys. That's my son's lifetime. Dean Smith hasn't existed as a coach. If you are in that, anything younger than a high school junior, sophomore, depending on your age there or whatever. So a lot of times people don't realize. They may even just recognize it as the name of the guy on the stadium, or the name of the guy. Oh yeah, I've heard of that guy, or I remember hearing Michael Jordan talk about it. But man, you're talking, like I said, to start it, come back where we started. You build the Mount Rushmore of college basketball coaches. Dean Smith is definitely one of the big four faces that you put on that one. So sympathies to the family and everybody affected. And when you say everybody affected, as like I said, hundreds of people yesterday, as you saw, really. And that speaks to the legacy of a guy there. So wanted to start off talking a little bit about that. A couple other things. I want to talk Cavs. You know what? I want to get the first break out of the way before we do. We've kind of already ran a bit with this opening segment. Couple of things in the news here just coming out of over the weekend. Just the other day we were talking, I think it might have been Friday. Yeah, Friday, when Jonathan Knight was on the show with us, we were talking Little Indians here, looking ahead. James Shield, remember we mentioned about the newer trend of the last few years, the bigger name guys still being around there as you get to spring training. James Shield's not going to make it to spring training, ends up going to the Padres, who are just... Did they, whatever they decided, I know that a lot of other teams go, boy, that's the fun run when your team just says, we're going to go to work this offseason. San Diego has definitely gone to work. Okay, Upton, Matt Kemp, Will Myers, Derek Norris, James Shields here now added to that. They just completely overhauled that team. And of course, Petco Park there in San Diego is a great place for pitchers anyway. Shields should be able to slide in there. But for Tribe fans, the reason I bring it up, it does finalize him ending up, wasn't a guarantee that he'd end up out of the division. He's now out and out of the American League now. Going to head out to the National League there for the Padres, and that's another big swing. Man, the Padres again, I'm not woe is me with the Tribe, obviously. We've talked and we'll continue to talk about moves they have and haven't made so far. But, you do go, boy, that's the fun. It would be fun to have that offseason where every time, because it seems like every couple of weeks, Padres fans, and they had that run there where it seemed like it was every couple of days for a minute. But Padres fans, every time they turn around, it's, hey, we signed this guy. We signed that guy. We traded for this guy. We're going for it this season. And they add to that here now, as San Diego signs James Shields, and it is not only a big contract, it's the largest contract in San Diego Padres club history. It is going to be 4 years, roughly $75 million. They don't have the exact confirmation on it, and a club option for a fifth year on that. It just completely surpasses the previous deal, blows away Jake Peavy's 3-year, $52 million deal. Which, man, you think about that. That's almost 10 years ago there. That was in 2007. That was 8 years ago. But Shields is going out of the league, out of the division, heading over to San Diego. Them Padres putting in some work. So we'll get back with that tomorrow, actually. Jeff Gorman from Indians101.com is in the house. We'll talk about some of the ramifications of this move as the waves continue to be felt throughout Major League Baseball. Baseball, there's that word again. We're going to be talking a lot of baseball. We're going to hear that word a whole lot here as we are on, did I already say? The final Monday where there's actually no baseball left until all the way at the end of the summer, into the fall. Yes, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Let's pick a beautiful thing. There was some beautiful basketball yesterday. I will say that. You needed to get yourself back on track against the Lakers, but I'm sure it's just now starting to really buzz out and shake out here because it wasn't until after the game that Kevin Love had the pieces put together for him. What am I talking about? LeBron James. We'll get into it when we come back. But the latest issue as the Cavaliers world turns has come up over the weekend, and I do got to say, as we just waxed on about the Cavs Friday, I do got to say that there is a bit of this that may come back to bite the Cavs later. I don't know. We'll see. We'll talk about it here. Either way, Cavs split over the weekend. The big streak is snapped. They start another one yesterday. Let's talk some Cavs hoops when we come back. Phones are open, 216-539-7535. 216-539-7535. Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan joining us just a little bit from now and so much more. Don't go anywhere. We have just, hey, you know what? You hear Prince in the background. Let's go crazy. Let's do the Sports Fix thing, talking some Cavs hoops when we come back here on The Fix.
Let's go crazy. Let's go crazy. Let's go.
This is the Sports Fix.
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
Hey, call me Mr. Pig! Ah!
We'll call you whatever you like, as long as we can call you a fan of the Sports Fix.
Guys, want to take just a second as we head into this break and remind you about the official business printing source of the Sports Fix, our friends at Signs and Ship. Signs and Ship, I'm telling you, Chris and Pam, they've taken care of me since day one, and they can do the same for you. Whether you're a small business that's already been established and you're looking to grow to that next level and expand your business, or perhaps you've got an idea that you just know is going to be a great business and you need to figure out how to brand it and how to promote it and put it out there, Signs and Ship is the place for you. If you need a logo, they can create one for you. They have a fantastic graphic designer. Business cards, signs, banners, yard signs, mobile advertising, anything you can think of that you need to promote your business, they've got it at Signs and Ship. The best thing about them, too, is each of their locations, whether it's the home base here in Elyria, Ohio that I work with, or their spots in Virginia, Florida, and Pennsylvania, it's all local sourced. Very important to me because we all understand that small business is the lifeblood of the community. So check them out, signsandship.com, or call Chris and Pam today, 440-323-6060, the home office in Elyria, Ohio. Signs and Ship, quality printing at affordable prices.
Sports Fix listeners, like us on Facebook today. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix.
How to be a great dad in 15 seconds. Bike ride, go fish, walk in the park, phone call, milkshake, play catch, picnic, fly a kite, tell jokes, laugh, talk, read a story, tell a story, bumper car, swing set, bowling, pillow fight, cut loose, stay tight. Whew. Because the smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize.
I mean, a really real prize.
Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs. There's literally only one place to go. FantasyJocks.com.
Here we go, bring it on in. It's time now. It's all city. We got to do it for them, dog. We got to do it for Cleveland. They're waiting on us. Define what we're about. Let's get it going.
Every single night, every single practice, every single game, we got to give it all we got because they're going to ride with us. Everything that we do on this floor, because of this city, we owe them. We're going to grind for this city. They're going to support us, man, but we got to give it all back to them. We get it done. The toughness that we have on the court is going to come from this city. Everybody, the whole city of Cleveland. That's what it's all about. It's time to bring them something special. Let's go. Bring it on in, everybody. Let's go. Hard work on 3. Together on 6. 1, 2, 3. Hard work. 4, 5, 6. Together. 1, 2, 3. Hard work. 4, 5, 6. Together. It's all us. Cleveland on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Hey everybody, this is Jerry the King Lawler from WWE, and you're listening to the Sports Fix.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix, live across the Sports Fix Radio Network. J-Rocc back with you here as we continue on, you guys. Going to talk a little. We're going to talk some Cavs hoops here in just a minute. While we're talking hoops, though, I will say at least you're not a Knicks fan, man. Here, by the way, phones are open. Probably the last time I'll have them open here until the last segment. We've got Dan Wismar coming up next. 216-539-7535. 216-539-7535. Facebook, Twitter. Hit me up. Where are you at with the Cavs after this weekend? Facebook.com/The Sports Fix. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix, CLE. Email us, thesportsfix@AOL.com. Before we get into the actual Cavaliers here, ins and outs of the weekend, I was saying the Knicks, and how about this? Of course, a little bit of a tie-in here to Cleveland, with it being the nephew of the Dolan that owns the Cleveland Indians. However, New York Knicks owner and the Cablevision CEO, James Dolan, how about, he had himself a Phil Savage moment here, except this was worse. You know, remember when he said to go root for Buffalo? Kind of the same thing, except this one's coming from the owner and not the general manager, who at least can be fired. This is, I gotta tell you, I'll read the two real quick here, and then, because I've got them pulled up, the ferocity that he fired back at the fan was the thing. Check this out here. And now here's the thing. I know you guys, this is why one of the reasons I'm bringing this up. I know you guys can dig this, especially being here in Cleveland and knowing what we've gone through with bad owners of bad teams. Every sport that we've got has had multiple bad owners and stretches of bad seasons and all of that. So dig that as I pull this out here. Here comes the email that was sent to Mr. Dolan, James Dolan here, and the New York Knicks. It says, "I've been a Knicks fan since 1952. At one stage, I thought that you did a wonderful thing when you acquired everything from your dad. However, since then, it's been all downhill," capital letters. "You're working with Isaiah Thomas and everything else regarding the Knicks. Bringing on Phil Jackson was a positive beginning, but lowballing Steve Kerr was a disgrace to the Knicks. The bottom line is that you merely continued to interfere with the franchise. As a Knicks fan for in excess of 60 years, I'm utterly embarrassed by your dealings with the Knicks. Sell them so their fans can at least look forward to them growing in a positive direction. Obviously, money is not the only thing. You have done a lot of utterly stupid business things with the franchise. Please, no more. Respectfully, Aaron Bierman's dad." Dolan's reply back here, and this was on Friday, January 23rd. "Mr. Bierman, you are a sad person. Why would anyone write such a hateful letter?" Let me pause there real quick. I have no idea why he would refer to what I just read as hateful, unless I'm hearing it in a different tone than you guys did. I did not hear anything hateful in what I just read. But anyways, back to the actual quoting. "I am just guessing, but I'll bet your life is a mess and you are a hateful mess. What have you done that anyone would consider positive or nice? I am betting nothing. In fact, I'll bet you are a negative force to everyone who comes in contact with you. You have most likely made your family miserable. Ouch. Alcoholic, maybe. I just celebrated my 21st anniversary of sobriety. You should try it. Maybe it will help you become a person that folks would like to have around. In the meanwhile, start rooting for the Nets because the Knicks don't want you. Respectfully, James Dolan." Damn. I mean, seriously, that's harsh. That's harsh, even if Mike Polk Jr. had recorded that man's video for him, translated it into Factory of Sadness speak, and then sent it to Dolan. That's still a harsh response, let alone to the email that I read, especially because the most of the emphasis in the initial fans' email was not about obviously the opposite of the Dolan argument here. Here it's the Dolans don't spend money. There it's they spend money, but they're stupid everywhere else. And I mean, he brought up, and that's a good point. Think about it. We talk about laughing stocks and embarrassments and investigations. Isaiah Thomas, I mean, I don't know if everybody out there is familiar, but there's an ugly, sordid story there, and then to circle back, go back to the well again. So I get, obviously, where stuff like that and the clown show stuff that has pervaded the Knicks for so long, although, that being said, Phil Jackson has just come on board, and I do think that Phil Jackson can root out the nonsense here and get things on track there. And I think that he, being a Knick player, has a big respect for the Knick organization and wanting to be, plus ego, wanting to be the guy that puts it back on top. So, in all fairness, let's see what Phil Jackson does there. But basically, you can dig where the guy was coming from. But to me, I don't really see it even being all that disrespectful. It could have been a whole lot worse. I've definitely seen and heard a whole lot worse before. But man, even if it was worse, you can't respond like that if you're representing a team. You can't respond like that anyway. To be honest, the first line is exactly right. Where he says you are a sad person. No, Dolan is a sad person for writing. I'm sorry, man. That's wrong. That's not cute. There cannot be some sports radio or sports TV guy going, I agree with Dolan. That's how you respond to these fans who think they can tell you what to do and how to run your business. I disagree. First off, that wasn't that kind of letter, and even if so, there's no place for that, man. I mean, I don't know how big of a blow up that is in that fan base, but it should be. I'm sure it will be. I mean, if people already aren't not going to the games because of the way they're playing on the court, I don't know that this won't necessarily add to that. But still, man, that just goes to show you, too. That's what makes it so hard to – and, we say it about athletes, you say it about fans, the loyalty, the whole things aren't like they used to be. Yeah, I agree. Obviously, the athletes are different now in their mentalities. They don't have the loyalty. But as fans, athletes, whatever, when you see a slice into the inside of a mind of a guy, at the top of things, those really rich guys running things, they live in a world completely different than everybody else. But when you get a slice of how they really look at people, you go, man, how could anybody get behind that, support that? Yeah, that's terrible. And that's a terrible way to talk to a fan, especially somebody that says that. Let me tell you, the Knicks have had some good in the last 60 years. The Knicks have had some bad in the last 60 years too. It's like saying I've been a Browns fan for 60 years. Kudos to you, man. I'm sure that your heart may not have enjoyed the journey some of the time, but hats off to you if you're still sticking around through all of that. But that's nasty there, man. Anyways, started there to go talk about the Cavaliers, and nasty did start poking its head out a little bit, and it happened after the game. And I don't think some fans, because I've talked to some people since yesterday that have said, well, now look, Kevin Love bounced right back. This is no story, J-Rocc. You don't even got to make a story out of it. But it is, and people need to realize that there is a little something here. And matter of fact, just talked to somebody behind the scenes this morning who said Kevin Love is more than a little miffed about this little blow up over the weekend here, because it wasn't until after the game yesterday that he was told about what happened. And here's what I'm talking about. Cavs, we've talked, Kevin Love all season long, adjusting to his spot on the team. He's had big games. He's had lesser games. Of course, he had the game that everybody was panicking about the other day with 5 points, and then followed it up 2 games later as the streak was snapped against Indiana with a similar performance. But anyways, as I kept saying, as long as he's giving you what he's giving you, that's excellent for now. And again, we can have money talks and contract talks later, because his value is affected by that stuff. Is he a max guy? Whatever. But that's not our talk right now. He's been contributing just fine. Nights that he's giving you 5 points, like that one night, he's dropping 15 boards. So there you go. I'll take it. All right. Yeah, and we're winning. That's the key. And David Blatt said that. He goes, man, we just won our 12th game in a row. You guys are asking me about Kevin Love's 5 points. I think you guys are worried about the wrong things, and I can totally dig that aspect of it. But here, to phrase the time, or put the timeline in order. So Friday night, Cavaliers have the streak snapped in the loss to the Pacers, and I said we put the jinx on them. I said Jonathan Knight did it when he started going, well, 16, 17, all-star break. I said, man, that's where we went wrong. We got them on Friday because, of course, they tripped up, lost that game to the Pacers there. But over the weekend, LeBron tweeted out yesterday, I believe it was, before the game, a bit of a subtweet, as they call it in social media, where he took a quote that Kevin Love had used earlier in the season, flipped it around on Kevin Love, but he didn't tag Kevin Love in the post. He wasn't directly talking to him, so it was kind of a shady thing to do, if you ask me. Seriously, it was a shady thing to do, but I'll tell you what made it shady. It wasn't what LeBron did, because that could have been a personal message that was conveyed and taken care of and move on. It was the way LeBron didn't let it go. He should have just stuck with this story is what he should have done, because he initially gave this ridiculous explanation for it. Basically, remember when the Cavs played in the preseason, they went to Brazil, and coming back, Kevin Love had been quoted as saying that some of the players on the flight had told him to not worry about fitting in, to try to fit out. It's like corporate speak. It's one of those little expressions, but to find a way to just plug yourself in where you can, instead of trying to force yourself in, to fit in from the outside, basically. So fit out. Well, LeBron tweeted Saturday night, to no person in particular, again, should have stuck to that story. Stop trying to find a way to fit out and just fit in. Be a part of something special. Just my thoughts. And he capitalized fit out and fit in. So, okay, internal message. Got it. It could be a public tweet, but Kevin Love probably sees that and goes, hey, oh man, I think he's taking a shot at me there. Even if that's the case, deal with it internally. LeBron comes to the game yesterday. People started asking him about it. Some of these guys have nothing better to do but to troll. They know how to dig back and find these little nuggets here. So one of the guys went and dug out the initial quote and said, hey, LeBron, so was that about anybody in particular? LeBron played it off smooth. He goes, nope, not at all. He goes, I was just talking about people in general saying they should fit in and be part of something special. Just people in general. And he was trying to be slick, right? Terrible explanation. Nobody was buying it, but done. No harm, no foul. But, and here's where I say, this may have just been a strategical error LeBron made, being a little too cute. Afterwards, he goes on and answers some other questions. A guy near the end, with a few reporters remaining, comes back to the question. And LeBron looks at the guy, and he had to take credit for what it was. He said, it's not a coincidence, man, with that little smile on his expression as he says it. Now, see, that is what turns it from something you deal with internally to now publicly admitting that you took a shot at your teammate. And I know it sounds silly, but that you don't do that to somebody. If you got something to say to somebody, say it to him. You guys know I joke about Ron Graham, who runs our social media, and I always say, man, he's going to get me into a fist fight that I don't even see coming, because when he's live tweeting the show, he repeats what I say, and he ats that's what it's called when you use the @ sign and you tag somebody on Twitter. He ats everybody I'm talking about with everything I'm saying, which I'm totally cool with. I'm not hiding behind anything that I say. I love it. But I always joke and I go, man, one of these days I'm going to be walking around a corner and somebody's just going to spear me coming down the hallway. And I'm like, what was that for, man? What you said on Twitter. Damn you, Ron Graham. So anyways, but yeah, point out a guy if you got something to say about him, and then he knows you're talking. But I don't even care about that. I'm cool with dealing with it internally. I just think, and here's why. You go out and have the game, right? Kevin Love had a good game. Cavaliers took care of business. 120-105. Knocked out the Lakers. Kevin Love had his biggest game of the season. 32 points, 10 rebounds. Bam. Everything good. Maybe message received, right? Wrong. After the game, Kevin Love's sitting there, and this is the part that I don't know if people have caught on to yet. After the game, reporters come up to him and bring up the deal. He had no idea. It hadn't gotten to him yet. So he comes out there, bounces back. Cavs get him in the flow. He's having a good game. Then afterwards, he finds out about that, and he was very disappointed. He said, I don't have his exact quote in front of me here because I believe I accidentally just clicked it off. But paraphrasing what he said, he was talking about it a little bit, and it was right after he had just reconfirmed how much I'm a Cavalier and all of that stuff, and but he got a look on his face, quite quizzical, and said, well, I really don't understand why he would do that, why he would point me out like that. And like I said, I heard that he was definitely more than just a bit miffed. And so, again, that's the kind of thing that plays not just now, that plays into later, how this plays out. And Kevin Love is a tricky subject only because he controls all the cards, and the Cavaliers gambled a lot to get him here. And the last thing you need to do is upset that apple cart for something as simple as that. And you guys know, hey, I've been giving LeBron credit for what he's been doing lately, the change in his attitude, of course, absolutely. I just think that one may have been being a little too cute and not even thinking that could turn out to be a bigger deal than it is. And those are the things that individually don't matter. Individually, they roll off the back like water rolling off the duck's back. But when you've already got questions and problems, and I'm having a hard time fitting in, and I'm having nights where I can't get the ball and all of that stuff, nights where my shot's not falling, then when it feels like, man, when this guy's got an issue, he'll take a stab at me in public, then they become camel breakers, straw breakers, you know what I mean? Then they become the one that the straw that breaks the camel's back, which is why I just invented the new word camel breaker just a second ago. But anyways, seriously, that's where I'm coming. That's where those things do matter. That's where that one extra drop of water all of a sudden makes the bucket way too much and tip over. So I worry about that. And, while I'm jumping on LeBron, I do have one other thing that just bugged the heck out of me yesterday. And it's you just let well enough alone go. He slightly cut David Blatt's legs off again yesterday. There was no need for you to tell, and I think he did it. I'll tell you why he did it. Because he was trying to make up for what he said about Kevin Love on Twitter, and he knew he kind of messed up. So he started telling the media that he grabbed a clipboard and started drawing up some plays for Kevin Love during the timeouts. That can be true. I think we all know that LeBron James has input in the timeouts with what the Cavs do. Michael Jordan used to have input in the timeouts with what the Bulls did. I'm just saying, Kobe, the stars, that's the way it works. But you don't say it to the media. That cuts David Blatt's legs off. That makes it look like David Blatt doesn't know how to get Kevin Love the ball. So LeBron because he said that's why he did it. He said, I did it so we could try to get Kevin Love the ball a little bit more. It just undermines your coach a tiny bit. And we had gone a couple of weeks without moments like that. So that's all I'm saying. I'm not piling on LeBron. Hey, the Cavs won yesterday. They got back. Streak ended at 12. Now it started again here with that victory over the Lakers. And, I mean, they were just rolling the Lakers. They were up so big at certain points in that game. It was a fun game to watch, and that's why I say, damn, little thing like this comes out afterwards. Those are the little pebbles in the shoe that bother you every step of the journey. So, no need for it. And like I said, the thing with Blatt was I'm not trying to pile on LeBron or anything like that, but that was look at it from the way I just laid it out. Tell me that's not cutting the legs off of the guy. I mean, he's just now building himself some legs, building himself up a little prop. He's got the 12-game winning streak to hold himself up now. Everybody says, oh, this guy is not an idiot after all, okay? So, and then, boom, you go, well, I had to draw up some plays for Kevin. I'm just saying, not the best look. And, and I know why he did it. Tell me that's not why he did it. What I said. It's because He was making up to Kevin Love. He was going, look, I was helping get you the ball because I know we got to get you the ball. We're in this together, which is what he needs to do right now. Damage control is what LeBron needs to do. If you've got to go take Kevin Love out for a hot dog today, if you guys got to go sing Kumbaya together, go make some s'mores. LeBron, go buy him a Kia. Whatever you got to do, go hook it up. Go make it happen, man. Take him to your tattoo place, whatever you got to do. Because right now that's all that matters is fixing it and moving forward. But, those are little things, guys, that they'll all play in later. And I saw an interesting point, and it wasn't in an article. It was actually in a message board. There was a lot of basketball fans from different teams, different cities discussing. And I saw some guys, and I jumped in on a conversation, and we kind of went in a different route with it. And I'm just saying that, when you talk about why, because my question was, why even dig at the guy in public at all? Why even just step there, LeBron? Let it go and do it behind the scenes. But one of the things is, we keep mentioning, you do have that summertime decision coming up. I mean, some speculation. Was that LeBron's way of prodding Kevin Love intentionally and saying, hey, are you in or are you out? Because if you're in, I want you in. Be a part of this. But if you're out, we've got about 2.5 weeks that we may have to look at our options, because the Cavs do have to have a belief within a couple of weeks that this is going to pay off either in a championship in 1 year or a return of Kevin Love for a second season and beyond, because they do have a lot tied up into it, and it's too much to let it just walk away. That is a hell of a gamble that the Cavs would be taking. So maybe part of that too is, hey, let's put a little pressure on him in LeBron's mind, because if not, we may have to know if he's going to fold under a little bit of pressure like that. And I can dig that mindset too, but I just think he was perfect with what he did. If he would have just not admitted what he did, if he would have just left it at, I'm treating you media like you're stupid, and then, okay, treat them like they're stupid, but it's better than, yeah, you're right, I was intentionally taking a cheap shot at my teammate. That's all. But anyways, outside of that, looking at the weekend, they split the games here. Cavaliers still have won 13 of their last 14 games. They got a couple of games off here. As we said, Kevin Love yesterday, big game for him. And, the Cavs need to roll. I mean, a buddy of mine and I were joking last night about that starting lineup that the Lakers rolled out there, man. That's not what you're used to seeing out of the Lakers. Byron Scott over there, he's got a heck of a squad to coach. No offense, but I mean, it is what it is over there. But yeah, Love, 32 points. LeBron James was all over the place, a little bit of everything there. 22 points, 10 boards, 8 dimes, and Kyrie, 28 and 10. That was what you want from the big three right there. Cavs rolled the Lakers. Now they advance to 32 and 21. They're 20 and 9 at the house. 11 games over 500 again, starting a new streak here. They've got a couple of days off, and then guess who? The Miami Heat coming to the queue here this Wednesday. We'll preview that as we get to Wednesday and all of that. But Cavs now with a well-deserved couple of days break, as they've had, this is the end of that stretch that 2 weeks ago Eddie Jansen and I were pointing at, where they just had a run of games where they had back-to-back stretches of 3 and 4 days that quickly turns into 6 games in 8 days, and they come out of that now. As I said, a little bit of a breather here before they've got Miami, Chicago, another back-to-back, and that's a tough back-to-back there. That's a good test for the Cavs, too. Couple of days break here, couple of days rest, a couple of days for media like me to stir the drink. No, I'm just kidding. But obviously, they're going to have to deal. If you think LeBron's not going to be answering questions about that thing today, and Kevin Love and all of them about that Twitter thing, they sure will. But basketball tests jump right back at you. Last couple before you take the break for the All-Star game here. You've got Miami, and then you jump on a plane and you head over to Chicago and take on the Bulls. That's good stuff here coming up later this week. But Cavaliers, one streak ends. We'll see how they finish things up and head into the break. And both of those games, by the way, national TV. Wednesday night, the Heat, that's an ESPN game. Thursday night, the Bulls, that's a TNT game. I know, kind of spoils you a bit, man. Every time you turn around, they're playing those 8 p.m. tip-offs with those national TV games, man. I don't know. Guess a lot of people wanted to see Deli and Brendan Haywood play basketball this season, man. So good for those guys. Anyways, Cavaliers, as we said, bounce back, get the victory against the Lakers. We're going to take a break here, get you some news, and get Dan Wismar in on the conversation. I talked a little bit about it at the beginning of the show. We'll talk a little bit about everything as we do, but talking some Buckeyes with Dan Wismar. Buckeyes football, that is, as in the last couple of days, a whole lot swirling around. Of course, changes in the coaching leads to all kinds of stuff with one of the top recruits. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but we'll get into it here in just a moment. We'll talk some Buckeyes. Those guys up north, not happy. Some interesting tweets back and forth. We'll talk some Buckeyes here when we come back. Maybe a little bit of tribe. Oh, I've got an interesting... I'll save this for when we come back, too. Jamal Lewis. I don't know if you guys heard the story of Jamal Lewis. He's fallen on some tough financial times as well. Just like one of those 30 for 30s, man. But anyways, we'll talk about all of that here and more. Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan joins us. We're going to roll into hour 2 of the Sports Fix with Dan and so much more. Hey, ton to get into. Vikings win monsters over the weekend. Buckeyes, let's do it. Rolling on with the Fix. Coming up next after the news. Guys, sit tight. Don't go anywhere. Join me with Dan Wismar. We'll be right back after this.
Come on, Cavs. Gotta make it happen. Come on, Cavs. Gotta make it happen with your fast break action. Gotta make it happen.
You unlock this door with the key of imagination. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of sound. A dimension of mind. You're moving into a land of both shadow and substance, of things and ideas. You've just crossed over into...
The Sports Fix. We'll be right back. It's an addiction. The Sports Fix. We'll be right back.
Today on Save on Taxes, we ask 100 people what costs less than filing your taxes with IRS Free File.
A car seat. Oh, a pair of shoes.
The correct answer is nothing. When you use Free File, you get brand name software, tax prep, e-filing, and help with the new healthcare provisions, all for free.
So, did we win anything?
Everybody wins. freefile.irs.gov. It's fast, it's safe, it's free.
Business owners and professionals, do you want to take your business, your product, your team, your event to the next level? You want to advertise right here with the Sports Fix. Our listeners are among the most loyal listeners, terrestrial or internet. The Sports Fix universe is not only the radio show, but tens of thousands of fans on Facebook and Twitter. Email me, Jerry Myers, thesportsfix@AOL.com. That's thesportsfix@AOL.com. And let me help you swing for the fences and hit it out of the park right here on the Sports Fix.
Whether it's an oil change or a new set of tires, Quick Lane at Valley Ford Truck has you covered for your car care needs. They're your neighborhood quick service experts. They also offer a low price tire guarantee. Choose from 13 brands, and if you find the same tires at a lower price within 30 days, Quick Lane at Valley Ford will refund the difference. 5715 Canal Road, right under the 480 bridge in Valley View. Come see why life is better in the Quick Lane. quicklane.com/Valley Ford Truck.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Signs and Ship, the official printing source of the Sports Fix. Locations in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Florida. Find out more at signsandship.com.
News break.
I'm Christine Lisi. Here's what's happening. Free agent pitcher James Shields and the Padres have agreed on a 4-year contract, according to reports. The deal in the $75 million range would be the largest San Diego has ever handed out. NBA LeBron James admitted to calling out Cavaliers teammate Kevin Love Saturday night with his tweet, "Stop trying to find a way to fit out and just fit in," adding, "Be a part of something special." Love, who had been struggling, had a breakout performance yesterday against the Lakers. He shot 11 of 18 for 32 points. Pelicans power forward Anthony Davis questionable tonight versus the Jazz with a sprained right shoulder. Clippers forward Blake Griffin will have surgery today to remove a staph infection in his right elbow. He's out indefinitely. Tough time for the Clippers to be without Griffin as they fight for playoff positioning. They've lost 4 straight, are 6th in the West. USA Today reporting Michael Sam, the first openly gay player drafted in the NFL, has applied for one of about 100 spots in the league's first ever veteran combine. Sam's hoping that'll lead to an NFL contract offer and a chance to go to training camp this summer.
The John R. Wooden Award presented by Wendy's recognizes the country's top collegiate basketball players. Go to ESPN.com and search Wooden Watch for more information on the award and the nominees.
You're listening to the Sports Fix.
That radio voice guy is always so presumptive. You're listening to the Sports Fix. Well, maybe they're not. I mean, I guess you are. I'm just kidding. I always joke whenever I hear that, my own like little liners. I go, boy, we're presuming a whole lot of things here, Jerry. You know what happens when you assume. But anyways, welcome back to the Sports Fix as we prepare to jump into hour 2 here. J-Rocc back with you. Going to be joined in just a moment by Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan here. We're going to talk some Buckeyes here. A lot of controversy in the last few days swirling around, and I can dig some of it too. Like I can totally appreciate the thought process of, hey, was there some disingenuous stuff going on down here? So we'll get into that. I'll explain all that, what I'm going on here in just a moment. I was teasing before I bring Dan on. I was teasing before the thing about Jamal Lewis. It's not a big story or anything, but just, you know, we've talked about it, 30-30 broke. I don't know if you guys have seen it. If you haven't, go see it, about athletes and just the burning through the amounts of money that they do. You guys know Jamal Lewis played for the Browns, played for the Ravens. I think he broke his own NFL rushing record against the Browns once or twice over the years. But anyways, he's ran for a small fortune, no pun intended, against the Cleveland Browns, but also played for the Browns. He's made over $48 million during his NFL career. $48 million in actual money, not before taxes and the actual what he put in his bank account. $46 million and some change, to be totally fair. And my man, not only did he have to file for bankruptcy a couple of years ago, but when the Ravens won the Super Bowl 2 years ago, they took everybody in the Ring of Honor in their Ravens team Hall of Fame, and they brought them in and they gave them all Super Bowl rings, just like they gave the team. And apparently, over the weekend, somebody finalized. Jamal Lewis sold that ring that they gave him for $50,820. He sold the Super Bowl ring that they gave him. But I just said, man, I mean, hey, do what you got to do, and you can't take the stuff with you when you go. So who am I to judge a guy for doing? But I just $46+ million of actual money that you made in your lifetime, and you're to the point that you are selling your memento. Well, I guess there's not any sentiment to that because they just gave it to you. You weren't part of the team or the franchise or anything, but still, man, because I mean, selling something for $50K, that would be like me selling like a prized piece of memorabilia because I need $10 to put in the gas tank to make it to, South to call the game tomorrow night, but anyways, but whatever. I just thought, forget the ring. Just period, to be in that position when you made that kind of dough, buku bucks like that, I don't get it. I don't get it because you don't have to give me $46-some million. Give me $4.6 million, and not only am I okay for the rest of my life, but I can promise you that not only will future generations of Myerses be okay, but I will positively affect the lifetime of a whole lot of other people and make their lifetimes better too. I can promise you that. And that's only with 4.6 of it, let alone moving the decimal point over one more place. All right, man. I want to go to the phone lines. We'll pick it up there. We'll talk about all kinds of stuff as we do. It's Mondays, a menagerie of things with Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan, my buddy. Dan, how you doing this afternoon?
I am doing great, J-Rocc. Good to be with you. Hey, I wanted to, before I forget, we can talk Buckeyes, we can talk Cavs, everything else. But I want to start just for a second with the Dolan letter.
Yeah.
Because just one thing I wanted to point out. I had heard some people characterizing the Dolan's letter, and I heard people reading, sections from it verbatim on the radio, but I had not heard the whole thing until I heard you read this afternoon.
Is that nuts?
One thing
Is
that
that
just killed
nuts?
me. First of all, the guy gets, unnecessarily personal, all right? He talks about the guy being, you're probably a negative influence on everyone you come in contact with. You're probably this, you're probably that. Go so far as to suggest that the guy is an alcoholic. I don't know where that comes from. That's kind of out of the blue. And then, after all these personal attacks, he says at the end, respectfully.
Yeah.
Respectfully.
There was nothing.
After he's attacked the guy personally, he has the lack of self-awareness to sign his letter. Respectfully, Mr. Dolan, whatever it was. I just thought that was hilarious.
Yeah.
But anyway, no call for that, obviously. And it's weird how some people think that email is private. No one will ever hear this. I can say whatever I want because it's not like it's on Twitter. It's not like it's on this or that. But you forget that the guy you're sending it to may choose to make it public and tell everybody. And obviously that's what happened here. The recipient, made his letter public as he probably should have. But yeah, that just slayed me after making all these totally unnecessary personal presumptions. He signs it respectfully. That was unbelievable.
Well, it's like in what is it? Which one? One of the Will Ferrell movies where he insults the guy, but he starts it with all due respect, and then at the end of it he goes, "You can't say that," and he goes, "But I said with all due respect," and it's like, well, that doesn't mean you can just insult me and then say that first. But seriously.
Well, if you say with all due respect, you're implying
what's coming.
That no respect is due.
First off, whenever somebody starts a sentence with all due respect, you already know the backhand is coming with the next part of that sentence. Almost
exactly.
Always. Like you know that. But you know what? Let me ask you. We've seen some of the miserable ones over the years, some bad owners and all of that stuff. But how, in general, how the hell does a fan base deal with once you see that, and I mean, especially when you see both letters, when you see the one, which is really, I mean, like I said, Mike Polk is much more disrespectful, and yay, the fan base loves it when they have a few after a bad game, and it sounds cool, but to me, that's low-hanging fruit. It's easy to go, and I'm not disrespecting Mike Polk, but it's easy to swear into a camera in an entertaining way and get a few people to get behind you with it. You know what I mean? And
and the letter from the Knicks fan was really pretty tame by fan standards. I've written worse scathing letters than that.
But how does a fan base, Dan? How do they then, once they see the venom at which the owner of their team can look at them, because you got to think, if you look at that guy like that, then you can look at any of us like that. I don't know how you repair that relationship at that point, because you've now peeled back the cover and shown them that I could care less about you and your opinion. If I like it, cool, we're on the same team. If not, this is what I think of you at the end of the day.
Well, yeah, and we talked last week about the problem with Haslam is that you can't fire the owner. You can fire everybody but the owner, but except in a extreme case like when the PC police came down and ran Donald Sterling out of a job. But in that case, you really could fire the owner. But basically, the owner has the purse strings. He can do what he wants. He can say what he wants. But you're right. He's lost. If he had the respect of the fans, he certainly has squandered a good portion of that now. And I don't think there's any way you get that back. after something like this is made public, especially in this day and age when everybody in the whole, New York City area is going to read this, hear about it, or second or third hand, and there's no way to put that toothpaste back in the tube.
Oh yeah, wait till those ESPN guys in the New York Central area. Wait until they start churning this thing through the 24/7 news cycle for a couple of days. Life is gonna. Phil Jackson may not be enjoying his job that he took here soon. And like I said, I like Phil Jackson. I thought he had I think he's got a shot to turn things around there, but then maybe not. That's when, like you said, you can't fire the owner. When the problem starts at the top, you can get the most genius person in the world to try to turn it around, but they're only going to get so far.
Yeah, you're right. It's there's just no way to deal with it other than public pressure. Certainly can, you can make it unpleasant for Mr. Dolan every single further day that he owns his team, and so that he finally might realize that it's not going to get any better, and that the only way he's going to get any relief from it is to unburden himself of the franchise. So certainly there are steps you can take, and boycotts, and maybe people will. I don't know how many people are still going to Knicks games, but this has been an awfully long dry spell for the New York Knicks, and they've been consistently terrible over a decade at least now, and
at least
it. I don't know if maybe it's a situation similar to the Browns where he can be awful and still fill the stadium with fans, but maybe there is going to be some economic effects to him that will incentivize him to sell the team.
Yeah, and they haven't been legit title contenders to me for closer to 2 decades. You're looking late 90s before back when the 90s was the last time to me that they were really the Knicks, and then they kind of really fell out. And much like you said, much like the Browns, when you say there was the time when they were the Browns, and then now they're the Browns, but they're not the Browns, like they should be.
Right, it's a football town, and the fans keep buying tickets, and I'm one of them. I keep renewing, even though they're consistently bad, and until people like me just say no more, I'm not going to send you a check again this year. Then I don't know how much incentive there is. Certainly, the ownership knows that they need to get better, but for the fans, I keep saying it, doing it for the fans, but fans keep lining up and sending them checks, and like I said, I can't fault them because I'm one of them.
Dan, you just said, okay, I really had zero intention of even mentioning the Browns, to be totally honest with you, but I just want to take a sliver of what you just said and ask you from exactly in that mindset, not just as joining me here on the show, but as a guy who writes that check for season tickets. How long have you done it now? 27 years. 27 years. That's some cachet, as you say, that you've got to bank on right there. All this stuff, especially just even since we talked last week, the last additional week of thing. Where do you sit mentally when you've got to sign that check? They want it now. They want you to put it back in the mail and go back. How does your brain turn now around the latest things here? I mean, how wavering is a guy like you at going, how close are you to not signing that check, or does it not matter?
Well, it does matter. I had the occasion last week. One of the local talk show hosts was talking about this. It was the day that the price increase was announced, and my tickets went up 27%. The dog pound seats went up 33%. 30%, I should say. No, 33. They went up from 45 to 60. And yes, it's the first increase since 2007 or 8, and the Browns, I know because the Browns never stop reminding me that they are something like 31st out of 32 teams in an average ticket price in the NFL. So we know that at least as NFL ticket prices go, we're getting a fairly good deal here in Cleveland. But we're also getting maybe the 31st out of 32nd caliber product on the field. So you get what you pay for. To answer your question, I guess, and I wrote this guy a long email. I did not, call into the show, but and I tried to explain to him why all the terms like sucker and masochist and idiot that were being used in the discussion to describe Brown season ticket holders, yes, these are words that definitely apply to me. You know, you could fairly call me all of those things. And I said, and believe me, we Brown season ticket holders call ourselves and each other all those names as we sit there in the stands watching a bad team play badly. You know, it's a little bit different though when you're looking at the guy next to you in the middle of a blizzard on a December Sunday, you know, as their team's getting drilled, and say, we're masochists. Why do we do this to ourselves? It's different to talk amongst ourselves that way than to hear it from other people who get up every Sunday and sit in front of their flat screen and, you know, don't go down to the ballpark. Why do we go back? Well, one of the reasons we go back is that after 16 years there in the same seats with the same people around us, we have friends there. You know, I asked the guy this, you know, how many of your friends, even your really good friends, do you spend 3 hours at a time with 8 times a year? You know, not many, I would guess. So that's part of it. We've got people there that we like being around, that we know, we've come to know. We know where they work, we know where they live, we know what their kids' names are, and we've come to know them, obviously some better than others. But we would miss those people if we stopped buying Browns tickets. And you know, this is our Sunday afternoon habit, you know, 8 to 10 times a year. So that's one reason that we keep going back. The other is sort of that constant dread that if you, after suffering for 16 years,
you're going to miss out.
All of a sudden cash in your tickets, and all of a sudden next year they go 12-4 and go to the playoffs, and you're sitting at home kicking yourself. So there's some of that, you know. But you know, a lot of it is just you're a fan of the orange helmet. You're not a fan necessarily of, you know, knuckleheads that they happen to draft this year. You know, you're grown up, and you saw Jim Brown play down there when you were a kid, and you saw all the greats and Brian Sipe and Bernie Kosar, and you're a fan of the uniform. And as long as the uniform's playing down on the lakefront, part of my particular culture is going down there and watching them play. Yeah. And obviously, the hope is that someday I'll see a Super Bowl champion. But you know, it's kind of bigger than that now. You know, so I keep you know, keep on in the hope, and you know, it's like the guy that, you know, has had a divorce and decides to get married again. It's the triumph of hope over experience. You know, you're gonna keep at it, and because it's what you do, and because you're a real fan, and you have pride in being a real fan, and a fan who, you know, is a fan not because he's a front runner. You know, they say nobody ever became a Cleveland fan because he was a front runner. You know, there's a lot of truth to that. So I guess that's the best way I can describe kind of why I keep going back, why I keep sending them a check, because obviously I hope it's going to get better. I kick myself. Yeah, it's you know, hard sometimes to say I can't believe I'm sending another check to these bozos in this front office, especially after you read an article like that Lock and Four piece last week that was hitting the internet just as we were on the air. That's like a kick in the stomach to you in terms of, you know, where's that hope going to come from for next year? But I hope that answers your question.
Well, yeah. I mean, I get it most times. I'm not one of those, hey, yeah, so forget these guys, don't get your tickets. Like, I get coming back every year. Losing, I try to say, you got to separate that. And I don't mean that it ever becomes okay to lose. But, man, I mean, I grew up not even realizing how bad the Indians teams in my childhood was until I looked back later, because that was a team that I rooted for, whatever. Point being is that I can circle around having bad teams. It's still my team. I root for them. Man, we've stunk for 10 years in a row. Maybe this will be the year. I get it. I can deal with that part of it. It's like you said, when you get to this place here, and they don't get there very often, but when you get to a place where it feels like you're, you know, maybe not verbally doing it like Dolan did there in New York, but you are just whipping it out and taking one right on your fan base, you know? To me, that's where I draw a line and start to go, now that gets me, man, because that's different. That's when you're taking advantage of what you know you got, and that bothers the hell out of me. I get making bozo decisions, signing the wrong players. We have wrong general managers. You're going to sign wrong players. Like, that's the cycle of losing, and I can come back for more with that, because eventually you got to get that right, even by sheer luck. You have to get that right eventually. But when there's a spitting down or a sneering down at the fan base from on top, it's the thing that eventually broke it with Art Modell. That broke when they reached a point where they said, we don't care that you're not winning. You are spitting on us, and that is where we say forget you. And that's what allowed Modell to steal the team out of the city, was breaking the fan base in between 91 and 93, and then, Bernie and all that. But that's the only time this stuff gets me, and that's where I was coming from with what I'm asking you. Is that?
Oh, sure, you're right, and Dolan demonstrated that he has contempt for his fan base. He not only doesn't care in a neutral way, he actually holds them in contempt. He's willing to accuse anybody who criticizes him of all manner of personal dysfunction and problems, to the point of accusing him of being an alcoholic. And in fact, Dolan is saying, after when he brags about his 21 years of sobriety, he's basically saying, I'm an alcoholic and I think you might be one too.
Yeah.
Which is a bizarre kind of statement to make, seemingly out of the blue. But anyway, yeah, you're right. He has contempt for the guy who had the nerve to call and criticize him for his decisions in the conduct of his basketball team. And as far as I know, the letter writer didn't get personal with Dolan. It's just inexcusable, and obviously he never thought that the guy would make his email public. That was stupid of him.
All right, you guys, that's 10 minutes that I broke today's rule. I didn't even tell you guys publicly, but I had made the decision when we went on the air this morning that today,
no Browns talk.
Right, no Browns. I tweeted it out. I said, we're not talking no stinking Browns today because there's nothing to talk about. I mean, we can do that. We already talked about this stuff last week. So until they do something new, I'll be right on it with everybody else. And then we just went into that. So we're done with them. Nothing else to talk about there. But I do want to dive into some other stuff, man. By the way, what did you think about that? I wasn't trying to take shots at Jamal Lewis, man, but how in the world does a guy go through $46 million in between 2006 and 2015?
Well, I like you. I was able to watch that broke 30 for 30, and one thing that comes true to me, and we all know it, that sometimes these athletes let's just put it bluntly, they are used, they are exploited by people who purport to be financial advisors or investment counselors or whatever they are, who flat out steal money from them or guide them into stupid investments, high-risk investments that obviously sometimes go south. Yeah. Sometimes it's family. People talk, I can't remember who it was recently that had to file bankruptcy and millions of dollars. Turns out it was his parents that basically stole money from him. It's escaping me who that was, but
I'll get it.
So they are exploited. They are used by people. But let's put it this way: if you've got $40 million, and I don't care if you want to drop all of it in some silly investment,
Jack Johnson,
in some skyscraper in Dubai or something. I don't know what you're going to do, but I'm going to invest $39 million of it, Jerry. I'm going to put $1 million over here just in case this all goes south. I'll have this cool $1 million over here. No matter how risky the investment I'm going to make is in something or another. These guys, they're not used to handling that much money. They've never come from that much money, and they get overextended and whatever. But most of the time, it's because they are exploited by other people that they trusted who did them wrong.
Jack Johnson, by the way, that's who it was from the Blue Jackets that had to file bankruptcy because his parents spent all the money that he made.
That's who I was thinking of.
Yep.
Mom
exactly.
and Dad.
But
Mom and Dad
even with that, and I'm with you on that, but it's the sheer amounts. Like, have you ever just sat down and played the game, just even in your head of, I have $1 million. I'm going to buy everything and write down a list of everything you would buy if you could buy anything that you wanted. I mean, obviously now if you're talking about buying a professional sports team, obviously you're talking money. But I mean, just anything, any physical possession, you start to list every car, every vacation, everything you want. You don't even touch $1 million most of the time, and you've run out of things to spend money. You're like, man, what else? I'm like, I start looking for things to spend money on. So that's when I go, man, multiply that by 40 or 100 or whatever. How is that humanly possible? Like, you know what I'm saying? $1 million is an unfathomable amount of money, let alone multiplying that 10, 20, 40, 50 fold.
Yeah, and the other thing that a lot of these guys will tell you, as soon as they sign that big contract and make big money, all of a sudden, they've got lots of friends, and they got lots of friends they haven't seen or heard from for 20 years. All of a sudden, they're your best buddy. Everybody wants a piece of you. Everybody wants to glom on to your wealth, and they're looking out for themselves. And it happens. They get overextended and mismanage things. But I think in so many cases it comes down to, oftentimes obviously people spend it on all the wrong things, including drugs, and that leads to other irresponsibility. But so often it's just exploitation by people they thought were their friends, thought people were acting in their own best interests, and in fact they were not.
And that is a big part of it is, I encourage you guys, go, if you got Netflix, it's super easy. You don't even have to look hard for it. They've got all the 30 for 30s on there. Go find the one broke. Because in actuality, some of them are just silly with the way they spend it. And of course, when they show you, I bought 100 luxury sports cars because I just had to have them, well, then you deserve to be broke. But you hear about some of these guys, they're trying to take care of their friends by putting them on payroll. A lot of these cats will tell you, I've got literally six figures a week of guys or a month that I'm paying, the bodyguards and the accountants, and he puts the mail in the mailbox for me, and he keeps the keys to the cars organized for me, and I pay him $10,000 a week for doing that. Who is he? The guy that used to live next door to me. You know what I mean? And they end up having those 6-figure payrolls regularly of just their people that they're keeping employed. So that's part of it too.
Yeah, you're right. It's the posse that you surround yourself with, the hangers on who used to be your friends 20 years ago, and as soon as you got rich, they're your best buddy.
Oh, you see it all the time, man. I always tell guys, like my students in wrestling, I always tell them, remember the guys that are around you right now. Seriously, because you never know when lightning's going to strike and you end up on TV and you're big and famous, and I promise you, the list of people that are your friends then will be way bigger, but the ones that are your friends are the ones that were friends when you were hanging out in this gym, no money, no future. What you could do for them was not as big as what they could do for you. Those are the ones that are your actual friends, and people got to remember that. They got to remember that, my man. All right, speaking of, good segue, because these are adult lessons, and speaking of lessons that kids learn and adults learn, and business mixed with decisions, some stuff going on, some Days of Our Lives stuff here around the Buckeyes. Right after, you and I just did the recruiting day stuff last week, talking about all the guys that signed on Buckeyes with a great recruiting class. The day after kind of all heck starts to break loose here, as of course the Buckeyes, it starts when Stan Drayton decides to go to the Chicago Bears, the running back coach, and he was of course a big part in getting a lot of the commitments, particularly Mike Weber coming from Detroit, who's going to come over and play for the Buckeyes, was on the fence literally in the hours before committing, and of course Drayton and Coach Meyer went a long way in getting that commitment nailed down. Then boom, and I can get where some people would say, hey, this is a little disingenuous. The next day, the announcement comes that Drayton's going to the NFL, and all of a sudden is, hey, did you mislead these kids, and did you get people to commit and then completely pull the rug out from under them? Because that changes the scenario a little bit. So you have all of that going on. Then you got some tweets fired back and forth between Harbaugh and the Buckeyes and all of that. But start with the beginning parts of this. I mean, obviously you can't fault a guy for taking a better opportunity, and going to the NFL is a better opportunity for a football coach. But start with recruiting day and Drayton leaving and Weber. Talk to me a bit about your take on the beginning part of this saga here.
Well, first of all, it's hard because, you know, the kids in high school, you develop these relationships over not just months but years, literally, and you start recruiting these kids when they're freshmen and sophomores, and sometimes earlier than that. Stan Drayton's been the running back coach at Ohio State for a few years now. He's a good guy. He's a good recruiter. He obviously developed a relationship with Weber. But Mike Weber, the running back, he's from Detroit. He was getting leaned on real hard by the Detroit people, by the Michigan people, and by Harbaugh. And he had originally committed to Michigan, in fact, as we said last week. Decommitted when Hoke got fired, committed to the Buckeyes. And, yeah, he was still undecided the night before signing day. And, yes, Stan Drayton was on the phone with him. My understanding, Jerry, is that Stan Drayton flew out of Columbus on Wednesday night to Chicago. He did not have an offer from the Bears until Thursday, the day after signing day. His interview, in fact, was Thursday morning with the Chicago Bears, the day after signing day. Now, had they talked on the phone? Was there discussions? Well, yes, of course. This thing had been in the works. But he didn't go to Chicago, and he didn't get an offer until Thursday, and announced Thursday that he had accepted the position, and this is still the day after National Signing Day. Mike Weber tweets out, you know, this hurts bad, I'm not going to lie, something to that effect, you know.
Yeah.
Suggesting that he was misled or the Buckeyes deceived him in some way, that this was already in the can, and Drayton had agreed already to go to the Bears, and they held that information back from him in order to get him to commit. Columnists all over the country, local and national, talked about the slimy tactics that the Buckeyes had used.
Yeah.
You know, and all I can say is Mike Weber did not commit to Stan Drayton. Mike Weber committed to Ohio State University and Urban Meyer. Now, I can see that if a coach decides to leave, a head coach, that, you know, in basketball or football or whatever, that there's some sentiment that players who commit to that coach should be allowed to transfer without sitting out a year.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
Because the head coach obviously oftentimes takes a whole staff with him, and the new coach coming in might have a whole different system and philosophy and not have the relationships. But, you know, the other part of me says, hey, kid, grow up, you know, or get out of yourself. You know, you committed to Ohio State because it was the best school for you, not because you had this fabulous relationship with your position coach. And maybe that was part of it, but if it was, you have to know that any coach can leave at any time. You know, unless it's the head coach, hey, life goes on. The Buckeyes 2 days later signed one of the best running back coaches in the country, Tony Alford from Notre Dame.
Yes, they did.
A great recruiter, a kid who also had a relationship with Mike Weber because he was recruiting him to Notre Dame. You know, we move on. And, you know, they're still the Buckeyes. They're still the national champions. Now, complicated by the fact that Harbaugh wants to twist the knife a little bit.
Yeah.
The next day, Harbaugh tweets out, you know, quote of the day.
Thought of the day.
You know,
Thought of the day.
What a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive. Okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, unambiguous tweet saying that the Buckeyes deceived Mike Weber. You know, that was answered in turn by Mark Pantone, Buckeyes recruiting coordinator, who immediately tweeted out a picture of the Sports Illustrated National Championship cover.
Yeah, he said, our thought of the day.
And then Tom Herman comes back from Houston already down there saying, hey, Mark, when can I pick up my Big Ten Sugar Bowl and National Championship rings?
You know,
that was his thought. So in other words, there's this little Twitter battle of words going back and forth. But, you know, Urban Meyer called Mike Weber the next day. Stan Drayton called Mike Weber the next day. They both talked to him. Tony Alford, you know, 2 days later, after accepting the job as running backs coach, is in touch with Mike Weber. Mike Weber hasn't really made any public statements since that time, and who knows what the upshot of it will be, and whether he chooses to honor his letter of intent. You know, who knows? But the bottom line is this: no coach is ever going to be forever at any school. You know, you always run this risk. And the story out of Ohio State is that Stan Drayton didn't even have his interview in Chicago in person. In other words, there was nothing final about Stan Drayton leaving to go to the Bears until Thursday, the day after signing day. So he probably thought that he wanted to and had talked to them about it, but he hadn't even had his face-to-face interview, let alone an offer, until Thursday. So it's kind of hard to fault the Buckeyes and call them slimy when this thing was not in the can in advance of signing day. It didn't happen until afterwards. So at least that's the word from Ohio State, if that report is to be believed.
Oh, I'm glad. I wanted you to lay that out, and that explains it in a way that really kind of puts the thing together. And here's some other things for people, especially if you want to jump on the Ohio State anti-Ohio State bandwagon, you can really peel that back now, as I don't know if you heard, but Mike Weber's mom, in just the last little bit, has come out here, I think it was maybe yesterday evening, but with a statement of her own about this whole thing. And you can clearly see, I think, the side that they're falling at on this as far as the after effect. And like you said, by the way, real quick before I read that, I agree 100% about the head coach idea. Now, I do believe when a head coach at a program changes, every kid should be given the chance to reconsider any kind of a commitment they made, because that's a true change. That could mean a system change. That could mean all kinds of things, and that really does. I know you committed to the school, but I'm with you. That's a major change. Position coach, I don't think so, and I'm with you on that one there. But
yeah, and the other thing, Gary,
that's different. Go ahead.
Yeah, the other thing I was going to say is that we're in a situation where the scrutiny is on Ohio State because they're the national champions. There are assistant coaches all over the country that are moving around
Absolutely.
this month.
Yes,
I
agree.
Like just the other day, the UCLA defensive coordinator decided to leave. Does this mean that all of the defensive commitments for UCLA were deceived? But you're not hearing about that one. You're hearing about this one because the spotlight is on Columbus.
No, I agree. And, the timing does make it easy. If you don't explain it the way you just laid it out, if you don't know the timeline of things, then you can easily twist a headline into knows he's leaving, gets the kid to commit, pulls the rug out from under him the next day. What a scumbag thing to do. So it is easy for somebody to try to tie that together. Let me read this from Weber's mom here. He said, I don't know if you heard this or not. Did you hear this, Dan?
I heard she made some statement. I don't know what it was.
She said, everybody wanted my son to play for the U of M, but loyalty is what U of M fans are not. They knew the reason why he decommitted from the university, and they called him names. Then when they thought they had a chance to get him back, it was come back to U of M. Now he's decided to attend OSU. Attitudes change again. Now these are adults that are attacking my child. What made you guys think he would ever recommit to a university that knows he's a child and calls him such disgusting names? As his mother, it really hurts me to see this. I will still continue to pray for strength. Lord knows I need it. And that's the quote from his mom.
That's very interesting, because the word was, or at least maybe the assumption was, that his parents really wanted him to stay in state and go to Michigan. I don't know that to be true. But it's interesting to hear that, because, it's amazing. And Ohio State fans do the same thing. As soon as, you want a kid, and if he commits to you, he's the greatest thing ever. If he doesn't commit to you, we didn't really want him anyway, and what kind of a guy is this? And he's a scumbag. So you always, every fan base, and Ohio State fans are known to be some of the biggest a-holes going, when it comes to this sort of thing. They have that reputation because it's true. But the Michigan fans beat Mike Weber up when he decommitted, and when he committed to Ohio State. They had a lot of hope during the last few days, even right up to the last minute before his press conference on Wednesday, that that he might come back and sign with the Wolverines. So when he didn't, all kinds of names were called, and Twitter just sort of amplifies all these things and puts them out there for everyone to see, where before it used to be, restricted to a tight circle of people that were reading Michigan recruiting message boards or whatever. Now it's the whole world gets to see this stuff, and that just makes it all the more amplified and blown out of proportion. But
and you know what?
Yeah, I respect his mom for saying that, and I'm sure that she has probably by this time talked with Urban Meyer, talked with Tony Alford, his new coach, and hopefully they're trying to tamp down the emotion of it. And the surprise and shock of it, disappointment of it, whatever, and let him know that, hey, not only, most fans, as good as coach as Stan Drayton was, people think that Tony Alford is an upgrade, certainly from a recruiting standpoint, and and he's a guy that everybody loves, and he's got great reputation nationally. Kareem Walker, the kid from New Jersey, the number one running back in the country that committed for 2016, has already chimed in with his support for Tony Alford and his recommitment to the Buckeyes. So it's most people think that that Urban upgraded at the position.
And you know what, too? Think about this. I mean, we're talking about Michigan, Ohio State. You're talking about a Detroit, Michigan kid. Think about the decision, right, that you're making here. You're not just choosing in-state between like Michigan State and Michigan. You're choosing between the evil empire and the Force, whatever, the Jedis. You know what I mean? You're
right.
That's a culture change there, man. I mean, you're crossing enemy territory. This is a tough decision. So I was telling this to some buddies over the weekend. They didn't really understand what it was, and I said, well, fans are mad and blah blah blah, and we were talking about it. But I said, think about it. Okay, do you really think that big, that hard of a decision, I'm jumping over state lines like that the positional coach was the be-all, end-all of that? There's so much that goes into making that big of a decision that there's no way, to me, that it's a pull one leg out and the whole thing collapses. I mean, there had to be big, bona fide reasons that he chose to make that decision that maybe you could say the coach, yeah, that's a big deal, that little personal relationship, but that's a big decision to make, and I think that's it deserves more thought into that too, that just one change like that he would go, oh, well, I'm done. That was the whole reason I was going. If that's the case, I doubt highly. What I'm saying is I doubt highly that one guy was enough to pull you out of your home state and have you willing to be a pariah non grata amongst your own friends for maybe at least the next 4 years, maybe the rest of your life after this. That's a pretty big decision. I'm pretty sure it had more to do than with just one guy.
Well, you're right, and both Michigan and Ohio State tell kids, and every school tells kids, hey, you're not just making a 4-year decision, you're making a 40-year decision. That direct quote came out of the Michigan camp after this thing happened. But it's not as if, let's face it, and I know all the pariah thing and all the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry thing is a factor, but let's face it, Desmond Howard, comes from Cleveland. He goes to Michigan, and maybe
sure
20
did.
years ago, people said, "Oh, you old so-and-so, you'll never be welcome back in Ohio." You think Desmond Howard isn't welcome in Cleveland nowadays? Of course he
Absolutely.
is. Charles
Yes.
Woodson, and same with the, Todd, the quarterback Craig Krenzel. Think he can't go back to Michigan and be warmly received up there because he went to Ohio State? It's not forever. Especially these guys that go on to have careers that came from Ohio, went to Michigan. There's a whole bunch of guys from Ohio that went up to Michigan. Not quite as many the other direction, but the reasons you come to Ohio State, surprisingly enough, sometimes it does have to do with academics or with other factors. Mike Weber said he talked with Ezekiel Elliott. Ezekiel Elliott assured him that he's going to go pro after next season. Most Buckeye fans had assumed that, but Ezekiel Elliott had never made any public statement to that effect yet. But he did say that to Mike Weber when Mike Weber said, "Hey, man, am I going to be sitting behind you for 2 seasons or just one? If I come to Columbus." And he made public the fact that Ezekiel Elliott told him, "No, I'm going pro after next year." So that was the first Buckeye fans that heard it straight from the horse's mouth. But Weber is in touch with Elliott and knows that he'll at least have that hurdle out of the way after just one season in Columbus.
You're listening to the Sports Fix. Dan Wismar and myself talking a little bit about the Buckeyes and the latest and all that with the recruiting. And again, to circle it all back up to, it doesn't hurt as well, like you said, that the guy that you're plugging into Drayton's spot there, not only a very good coach in his own right, but as you said, big in the recruiting, which was something that Drayton was big with. And a lot of these guys, like not just big, like literally dealt with a lot of these guys just now trying to recruit them as well. So I'm sure that is
one
all
other
playing.
one other quick thing
Yeah,
here before we
jump
move
in.
on to that.
Jump in.
Tony Alford has said as he joined the Buckeyes that one of the big reasons that he joined the Buckeyes, and yes, he got a raise and all that, so there's a financial component to it. Tony Alford basically has, I'm looking 5 years down the road. I see this as a jumping off point for me to help me get to my ultimate goal, which is to be a head coach somewhere. So he's coming through the door day one saying, I plan to be leaving here in a few years. Everybody knew the same thing about Tom Herman, that he had a 2-year commitment to Urban Meyer, and then he was going to be a hot coaching candidate. Ed Warner, now the offensive coordinator, offensive line coach, has made no secret of his aspirations to one day be a head coach. Tony Alford comes in the front door saying, this is going to get me closer to what my goal is, and because I know that Urban Meyer working for him is going to prepare me down the road and make me be possibly more visible than he was at Notre Dame, if that's possible. But also, help prepare me, help me get better as a coach, learn from this guy as a mentor, and so I can leave someday. So it's not a deep, dark secret that these guys have aspirations to go do something else, to go work somewhere else, to advance their careers one way or another, whether that means going to the NFL or going to be a head coach somewhere else. So it's just the way it is, and you can see how a high school kid might be disappointed, but like you said at the start of the segment, it's time to grow up and time to mature and get over yourself a little bit and look at the bigger picture.
That's it. There's only 3 reasons you're an assistant coach at a university like Ohio State, and that is because you either A, graduated from there and just love the friggin' place, B, you want to be a head coach somewhere, or C, you want to go coach in the NFL. That's why you go on a staff like that, for the exposure and the experience that you're going to get that's going to shoot you into one of those 2 places, and that's come on, that's common sense there, man. So, I've got no problem with that. And especially, as you said, it's easy to tell the story that it was done with duplicity, but it wasn't at all. And, from that aspect, again, and it is what it is, too. Trust me. I mean, you've been there. I've been there. I know what it's like to get a phone call out of the blue and go, wow, I didn't see life just now going in that direction. Where did that come from, And next thing you know, boom, you're off in a whole different direction. I just told somebody the story over the weekend, I'm a pro wrestler, and I just got back into it last year. 3.5 years ago, my life totally took a U-turn. Didn't see it coming. Next thing I know, I go, how the hell did I get here? When did I stop being a wrestler? And then it came back. But point being is, next thing you know, I look back and go, well, life just went a different. That's just what you don't plan it. Life happens while you're making plans, and you gotta move with the opportunities.
That's right. I like the John Lennon quote there.
I'm just saying, man.
Life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans. That's
true.
A line from a John Lennon song.
It's true. I ended up with the Sports Fix while I was making other plans, man. One day, things went, and it was like, well, do you, yeah, I guess. That sounds like a good idea. Let's see if we can make this work. How do I do that again? All right, well, let's go. And then you go, and the next thing you know, you go, that's all I do. Like now, that's what I do. But looking back, how did it happen? How did we get here? 1 minute I was going left, and next thing you know, I ended up turning right. So it is what it is, man. And regardless, Weber tops off, as you said, just one heck of a recruiting class there for the Buckeyes. And before we know it, Dan, with the weather changing here, I don't care what the groundhog said, which, by the way, which groundhog are we supposed to listen to? Because Phil, that rodent up in Puxatawney, said 6 more weeks of winter. But Buckeye Chuck down here in Ohio said, no, man, we're good to go. Winter's going to wrap up quickly. So how are we supposed to know which groundhog is meteorologically correct?
I say we put him in a ring and let him fight it out. I don't know.
That's
I think
not a bad idea. Wait a minute. That got Michael Vick in a whole bunch of trouble, man. Rodent fighting. Can we get in trouble for that?
We don't want PETA breathing down our neck, so let's just forget that idea.
Is that? Yeah, see, somebody would say that's being cruel to groundhogs to put them in the circus. I'll train me a groundhog, man. I'll put my money on Buckeye Chuck, man. Anything from Ohio is better than anything coming out of Pennsylvania. But isn't that a trip? You got each state's got their own groundhog, and they both got opposite results, man. And they wonder why they spend 3 days telling us about the storm that's coming to town that never comes to town. You wonder why, Well,
I've always said that I think weathermen have the easiest job in the world. They get up in the morning and flip a coin, and no one even remembers or calls them on it the next day when they were 100% wrong. So
they're allowed to be wrong.
Got to be a pretty cushy gig for the weatherman.
It's part of the. You're right. That is, I screwed up. You want to talk about sports where every day people can come back and go, well, you were only wrong by 37 points yesterday, But due to the weather, I could just show up and go, well, guys, my gut tells me that it's going to be 76 and beautiful all day, rains all day. People just go, well, they got a lousy weatherman on Channel 5. I'm going to watch him again today. And that's it. And, because there's only 4 weathermen.
No accountability. They never have to answer for yesterday's forecast.
Because you could just go, you don't like Cleveland's weather? Wait 5 minutes. It'll change. It's not my fault, man. So, anyways, my man, good stuff going on here. Good conversation, as always. And, man, as I was getting to here with the weather, spring training, warming it up, but hey, spring game, warming it up too. Spring practice will be coming around before you know it. Get a first chance to see some of the new guys that'll be impacting the Buckeyes next season, as well as the guys coming back. It's what do we got? A month? How long until the
April
practices?
18th? April 18th is the spring game. I believe that spring workouts I think start about the 23rd. I want to say of March. So you get about 3 weeks of practice before you have the spring game. I think there's a mandated number of practices you can have, and the game itself counts as one of them.
About 6 weeks.
March 23rd is the date I think that's sticking in my mind as the start of Buckeye spring ball. But we're talking about spring training of another variety here sooner than that, aren't we? I heard you mention James Shields at the top, and Indians fans got to be happy about seeing Max Scherzer and James Shields out of the Central.
Absolutely, man. Think about that, man. That's a big.
That doesn't hurt our chances at all. So
that's two of the top.
Gotta be pleased about that.
That's 2 of the top arms. I mean, Detroit getting damaged there. I mean, you got to love it from so many different angles. And hell, they both get out of the American League.
Right. Yeah, that's a good thing. And it all of a sudden puts all kinds of pressure on Mr. Ventura over there in Kansas City, and maybe on Justin Verlander to make a big comeback off a little bit of a subpar season, and some of these other guys. Detroit's got some prospects coming up, but you can't just lose guys like Max Scherzer and have it be a push no matter who you got replaced them. So yeah, good thing. And I was thinking the other day, Jerry, about last spring and watching the Indians really, really struggle out of the gate. I could count, games on couldn't even count them on one hand, the games that I felt that before Memorial Day last year, the Indians lost strictly because they couldn't pick up a ground ball in the infield. If this team can, and they only lost to Detroit by 2 games, a couple games, and behind Detroit by 1 and Kansas City by 2 or something like that.
By 3, yeah.
You really just need to play some better D, and you're right in the thing and competing for the Central. So all you got to do is fix that infield defense and make that maybe not even tremendous, but just make it 1, 2, 3, 4 games better than it was last year when it was awful, and you're right in the thing. So that's to me that's number one goal of the Cleveland Indians for 2015 is pick up the ball in the infield, and you're going to be right there at the end.
Well, you know what? Mike Brandenberry and I were talking about exactly that. Maybe it was 2 weeks ago. And, I mean, even if you didn't hear us talking about it, you've heard what Terry Francona said they're going to do. They've got a plan of different ways, different amounts of drills, different everything. They're gonna truly focus more in spring training on all the fielding deals to try to improve that defense right off the bat, which, I mean, you got to do. You take for granted. I always say, well, at the major league level, do you really got to take, well, maybe you do got to take infield drills, just like you got to take free throw drills, even though you're in the NBA, just to keep yourself sharp. But Mike is on whether or not it's really going to make a difference or not. I've got to think it would. I've got to think that just anytime you put a focus on something every day, it's going to be more at the front of your mind, and I'm all for it. But what do you think? I mean, obviously you like hearing that because it's different than the other teams, and team in town that looks at the problem and doesn't fix it, says we don't have a problem. I'm digging it, man. Do longer lines and drills and all of that. But do you think at this level that's going to pay off? Because like you said, you play better defense to start off the season the first 6 weeks or so, and maybe the hole's not so big for the last 6 weeks.
Yeah, well, I think part of it is going to be different people in different places. Let's remember that last year, first of all, Asdrubal had a miserable first half. I think he had more errors before the All-Star break than he had all the previous season, somewhere in the low teens, 13, 14, something like that.
It was like 13
which is
or something.
typically about a season worth for him, or certainly for a good shortstop, it's about a season worth. So that was awful. Just having not Nick Swisher at first base is going to be an immediate upgrade. And frankly, not having Carlos Santana at third is going to be an immediate upgrade. He played a lot of games at third base, kicked the ball around. Over at first base, he turned into a average to maybe slightly above average defensive first baseman, I thought, by the end of the year. So if he's penciled in at first base for the majority of the time, that's an upgrade over last year. Ramirez at shortstop over Asdrubal is an upgrade over last year because of just the sort of uncharacteristically terrible season defensively that Asdrubal had before he got traded. So that was a big part of the problem. First base and shortstop, Swisher was just horrendous over there, and so if he's gone, I don't care who you got there. It'd move Powell over there, and it would be an upgrade. So I think that the difference in personnel and where they're playing is going to take care of part of your problem.
I agree.
Kipnis at second base, decent range, and he makes the routine play. He doesn't kick a lot of routine ground balls. And I guess with Chisenhall at third, if that's your third baseman that you're going with, he's no Brooks Robinson, but hopefully he'll improve over the course of the year. He's still maybe the weak link defensively in the infield, but you just got to hope he's better. But I just think the change at short and first are two big steps up this year where it can't possibly be that bad.
No, absolutely. I mean, think about it. Literally, Nick Swisher was the worst defensive first baseman in baseball, in Major League Baseball, by the ways that they break it down statistically. He was the worst. He made more errors he made twice as many errors as Santana in half as many games at first. That's how bad he was. Meanwhile, for those of you guys wondering, well, how good was Santana at first, from the time he took over, in the, was it 90? I'll tell you the number of games. It was 93 games that he played at first base. He was ranked, and this is, again, by one of those advanced metrics, but he was given the 6th best zone rating, as they call it, of all the first basemen in Major League Baseball from the time that he took over. That's fine. I'll take top 10. First off, compared to last, that's a huge difference. But like you said, that works. I'll take that all season long. Don't even be 6th. Give me 10th. I'll take that all season long over there at first. Chisenhall makes up for a huge difference of what Santana was botching over there at third. I'm with you. And Asdrubal, I think you were right. It was, I think, 13, but maybe 14 errors there just in the first half of the season alone. You saw the huge difference the minute you got Ramirez in there. I agree. And Mike and I, he's like, I don't know if that's the big difference maker. That alone is a difference maker, man. But he had some points. Are the Indians going to allow that to be the way the defense settles out? Because they're going to find a place for Nick Swisher. Are they going to be stubborn and try to force him back in over there, or are they going to go every day with Santana?
Yeah, well, obviously we're going to find out. The thing that made me crazy about Swisher at first base, it was not a matter so much of Nick Swisher kicking ground balls or making bad throws. So many of his errors were just the failure to catch the ball coming over there.
Going past him.
Not even on routine plays, but even on plays that maybe weren't routine but still should have been caught. The failure to catch the ball at first base on a throw, not on a ground ball, line drive, or whatever, and they weren't throwing errors for the most part. It was really just failure to catch it, scoop it, just catch the ball as it's being thrown to you by another infielder. That's what made it especially, noticeable and galling to watch every day, to the point of you just screaming. But so anyway, who knows how they're going to rotate him? Maybe they play him at first base once a week just to keep him, understand what it's like to have a glove on his hand. But one hopes that he's DHing the majority of the time that he's in the lineup. because he really is just not reliable over there at all.
It's just like getting a Sasquatch sighting. Get him out there with a glove in his hand so you could take a picture. You could show other teams, look, no, he still remembers where the glove is if you want to trade for him. Here he is. I mean,
yeah, that's right. It's like the old line about what does he have in common with Michael Jackson? You know, they both wear a glove on one hand for no apparent reason. So
you gotta love that one, man. But hey, man, I'm with it, and I'm glad we're talking baseball, and I'm glad that we're really gonna be talking baseball here, man, as they're getting started next week. Spring training, it's happening, it's on and running, and I'm ready for it, brother. I want to start seeing the answers to the questions that we have play themselves out here on the field, and then I want to see how this roster shakes out, because I still believe that once they figure it out in the first half, we're still going to see that trade, whatever it is that we've been waiting for. I just think rather than making it sight unseen, they want to wait and double check how a couple of these pieces shake out in spring training here. But there's going to be an excess somewhere, and I think that will be resolved by the end of spring training.
Yeah, you're right, and I think maybe some of the biggest questions are, what happens with Murphy? Does James Ramsey have a chance to make this team coming out of the spring? Yep. And then maybe just a question or two about the bullpen. But, probably more so than in any recent year, this team is pretty much set, with the exception of how you're going to rotate that catcher first base DH situation, and how you're going to handle right field platoon, assuming it's going to be a platoon, and who ends up on the roster, whether it's a Murphy or a Ramsey or a Rayburn or someone else. Beyond that, not a lot of question marks, and maybe we do wait till June or July before we round out the roster for the second half. But I think for the most part, the team going into spring with fewer questions maybe than we've had in a while.
Absolutely. I cannot wait. What is the actual we start throwing balls date here for them? I don't have it in front of me. Do you know it?
I do not have it in front of me either, no, but I got to believe that
I got it.
It's right around the 20th of February or something like that, because, you're going to be playing games about the 1st of March, so you typically you've got a week to 10 days before they start playing exhibition games.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the exhibition games for the Tribe start on March 3rd. We're within a month. March 3rd is the first Tribe exhibition game. That's the Reds, 105. So for those of you guys counting, we will be watching the Indians play some baseball exactly 24 days from now. That's a beautiful sentence that I just said right there, man. 24 days from today, Dan Wismar, we will see guys in uniforms throwing and catching and hitting baseballs and all that stuff, man.
I cannot wait. I got my ticket set for the opener. It's going to be the Tigers. I'm all set to be there, and I cannot wait. So we'll be counting them down now from now on, there.
Absolutely. We'll come back here, you and I, on Wednesday, and we'll talk whatever's going on, man. Who knows? Maybe the Browns. I hope they don't. I would prefer.
I hope we don't have to talk Browns for another couple of weeks.
That's what I'm saying, man. Give us.
That'll be a good thing if we can just leave them alone for a while.
If they could just leave themselves alone for a while, man, and we don't go looking for this stuff, Dan Wismar. Indians
That's right.
fans,
Quit, if they just quit beating their head against the wall.
Pitchers and catchers report 9 days from today, to be officially exact. On the 18th, first workout for the Tribe is the 20th. Position players in on the 22nd. First full squad workout is on the 24th. So here we go, man. They're off and running, and so are we. Can't wait. I'm ready, my man. I'm ready. Come Wednesday.
Okay, dear. Talk to you Wednesday then.
Let's do it. Dan Wismar, have a good one, my friend. From the Cleveland Fan, Dan Wismar. He'll be back here on Wednesday. We'll talk some more Buckeyes hoops. I just saw they dropped 3 spots here in the top 25 that just came out here a moment ago. We'll talk some Buckeyes hoops, more about the recruiting and so on and so forth. Talk some Indians, Cavaliers, and maybe even those other guys too. Let's take a break. When we come back, speaking of stuff over the weekend, let's finish redoing the whole recapping thing. Vikings did their thing. Buckeyes did. Monsters did. We'll talk about all that when we come back. Greg Hardy, I can't wait to get John McMullen on later in the week because the NFL, what, a week they've been off, and the Buckeyes continue here. Good to see that justice can be purchased. I'll tell you what I'm talking about when we come back. We'll wrap up the show, set the stage for tomorrow, and so much more. Don't go anywhere. Final segment of The Fix coming up next.
To the Sports Fix. If you want to be my lover.
Hey guys, before we go to the break, I want to talk to you a little bit again about our good friends at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championships, some of the hottest fights in the world today. Each and every one of their huge events, Harry Buffalo is one of the few places in Northeast Ohio you can go there and watch each and every UFC fight at the Harry Buffalo. And let me tell you, I've been there. The people are out the door. They are to the rafters. It is one of the craziest environments for some UFC fights. Wing Mondays, they've got great deals on wings and drinks, and every day of the week there's a different special, a different deal. And don't forget the Bison Burger, the unbelievable. It is the combination of a fantastic burger and eating healthy combined into one unbelievable sandwich. You have got to get a Bison Burger while you're there. So whatever you're looking for, whatever day of the week, Monday through Friday, Saturday, Sundays, there's something for you at the Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Check them out today. Harry Buffalo, join the herd.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Fantasy Jocks. Visit fantasyjocks.com, your fantasy sports superstore. Championship belts, rings, trophies, and more. Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. Real time spent making real decisions, creating real victory.
I'm the greatest man in the world!
And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize.
I mean, a really real prize.
Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs.
The trophy's 12 feet high, and it is glorious!
Football, baseball, hoops, you name it, they have it. Plus, they have awesome draft kits and party supplies to make all your preseason activities the envy of everyone. If your league needs a ring, belt, or trophy, or you want to upgrade what you already have, there's literally only one place to go. If you're going to be a fantasy jock, do it right.
It's mine, the most magnificent belt ever created, and it's mine.
With America's fantasy sports superstore, fantasyjocks.com.
What's your fantasy?
The Sports Fix is now available every day on the world's largest internet radio service, iHeartRadio. Download the free iHeartRadio app, subscribe to the show, and get your fix.
I'm Pro Football Hall of Famer Paul Warfield. There's just one place where students are students first and athletics are played with purpose and perspective. That place is your local high school. High school sports help young people become confident leaders and role models and use the skills developed today to do even bigger things in life tomorrow. High school sports, a winning part of a complete education.
This message presented by the Ohio High School Athletic Association.
In baseball, miracles can happen when a team works together.
2 out, bottom of the ninth, down to their last strike.
The same is true in the fight against cancer. That's why MLB has teamed up with Stand Up to Cancer. Because we believe that when we all stand up together,
41,000 on their feet,
we can make cancer history.
Now everybody's standing. What a buzz in this building.
This is beyond a dream. Stand up with MLB at standuptocancer.org.
Hey, Cleveland, this is Ed Doherty, voice of San Ignatius Wildcat Football, and you're listening to the Sports Fix.
This is the Sports Fix. What is your name?
I'm the dude. So that's what you call me, you know? That or his dudeness or duder or, El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
Dude, what do you want?
Well, it's this rug I have. It really tied the room together.
We are not a show to be swept under the rug. We are a show to be heard.
It's the Sports Fix.
welcome back to the Sports Fix. Final segment here as we close up shop for the day. We're not done. We got several things to get into here, but final segment coming your way. J-Rocc back with you. Thanks to Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan. Great conversation, hour-long conversation with Dan. Love it when we've got some time to really sit down and dive into a couple of different things. A lot of good stuff about the Buckeyes there, and hopefully maybe clarified some things for some of you guys. If not, hey, let us know. Hit me up. 216-539-7535. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix CLE. Let me know your thoughts on today's show. All the stuff we've talked about. From, of course, the legendary Dean Smith passing away at the beginning of the show, James Shields to the Padres, Cavaliers and their weekend that was, Buckeyes, all the things that we've touched on here today. Jamal Lewis. We touched a little bit of everything, man. And speaking of a little bit of everything, I wanted to get into it today. John McMullen from the Sports Network, usually with us on Mondays. He's going to be here Wednesday. He had a last-minute meeting come up just before the show here, so we rescheduled things for Wednesday coming up. But I was going to talk to him about there's not only does the NFL have 4 active investigations against teams. The Browns are one of them with the texting, the Patriots with the footballs, the Falcons with their alleged inflation of the crowd noise, and the Jets for tampering with Darrelle Revis. But they've got players getting caught left and right. You had the guy from the Packers nailed with 10 pounds and $190,000, 10 pounds of pot he pulled over the other day, and so on and so forth. Greg Hardy. Now, this is great. Now, I'm sorry. I'm not digging this story at all. Greg Hardy's going to end up probably facing no discipline from the NFL here because technically he got himself off of the charges that he was already found guilty of. You guys, if you listen to the show, you definitely know because we talked a lot about it while Greg Hardy's first trial was going on. If you don't, you should still know. If not, go Google search it. Go read some of the graphic testimony and evidence that came out about the man, by the way, carrying a small armory there in his home, apparently, along with his domestic violence. But he's found guilty. But in the North Carolina legal system, when you have your first, you can have it thrown out by asking for a different type of trial in front of the judge, which is what he did. So instantly the guilty jury or the guilty verdict is set aside due to his appeal. So just like that, the jury that had found him guilty, that is dismissed, and now he gets a second chance in front of a judge. Well, that's not going to happen because prosecutors have admitted today that they're going to have to release the charges, dismiss the charges against Greg Hardy because his ex-girlfriend, his accuser, has reached a civil settlement. The district attorney's office has been informed that the woman and Hardy have reached a civil settlement, meaning a cash payment, and that now she has made herself intentionally unavailable to testify for the state. Basically, she has reached a financial settlement and then decided that she's not going to help the state prosecute Greg Hardy anymore. The district attorney's office said without her testimony, there is no case for us to proceed with. And you got to love, they went out of their way to use the statement, intentionally has made herself unavailable to the state. She didn't say that it didn't happen. She didn't recant her charges. She got a big fat settlement check and then she disappeared so that she wouldn't have to go to trial and put that man in jail. So there you go. I don't care. You can say whatever you want about me saying this. Greg Hardy bought himself some justice, apparently, if that's the way you want to call it. It's bought justice. It's not justice, but it's bought, paid for. And now he's not going to have to deal with that. So now the NFL has to deal with how do they, like, whatever. They step into one problem after another. How do they deal with this? Because technically now there's no guilty plea. There's no guilty charge. There's no anything. There's nothing. He's been exonerated as far as the NFL is concerned. But we all heard the testimony. Everybody knows what actually happened, the actual physical evidence that was there. How does the NFL, I'm going to be interested to see how they deal with this here, because they really could turn the blind eye. But now with all the attention of everything, they can't do that. But it wouldn't surprise me if they tried. Absolutely wouldn't surprise me if they tried. Of course, right now, it's a little bit different because he is currently on the exempted list from the league until this thing was taken care of. So we'll see how the NFL deals with this. They're going to have to deal with it soon because free agency is coming. Hardy's expected to be one of the free agents out there that's at least bid on by several teams. Panthers have no interest in bringing him back. I have no surprise with that whatsoever. So, I don't know. Maybe he's exactly the kind of culture that Ray Farmer is looking for. I doubt it. No, I mean, I don't know. Again, what teams are going to line up to throw money at that? But now they have an excuse because now there's no guilty charge there, no guilty finding to hang him up against there, even though he's as guilty as sin on that one. So it's good to know that justice can be bought and paid for if you have enough money. Greg Hardy, proof of that one right there. On to some more positive things from over the weekend. Here's a positive story. If you guys if you didn't get the Sunday Plain Dealer or Cleveland.com, if you don't live in Northeast Ohio, go to the website. Go look up, man. Terry Pluto had a great little story. This is an article about Anton Grady and his comeback. We talked with Coach Waters last season and this season about Anton, but he's had 3 different knee surgeries, big ones, big rehabs. That's a big body, by the way, to rehab over and over again. Grady, when he played at Cleveland Central Catholic, he was the next big thing. You thought, man, his senior season, he was a 22-point, 15 rebound, nearly 5 block a game average. That was his average as a senior, 22, 15, and 4.5 blocks a game. In the state semifinals, he had a 26-point, 22 rebound, 7 blocked shot performance. It was a big deal too for CSU to grab him, man. He was a big time recruit. Obviously not a big national recruit, but a big time deal. He talked about how he doesn't have any of the hop left that he had back then. He was able to just a pogo stick. He's lost it all. And it's funny to hear him talk in the article. He talks like he's Nate Thurmond, like he's, Elmore Smith at the end of the career. He's that old veteran. He's Shaq at the end. He knows all the dirty tricks, not the dirty tricks, but all the veteran tricks, how to lean on a guy, how to hold him back just a little bit, how to get the extra positioning for the rebounds and stuff. Except this is a kid that's in his early 20s, but he's already been broken down physically. A lot of people wondered if he'd ever even be able to get back at all. And here he is again, stepping up this season, filling in a spot. Coach Waters just couldn't say enough good things about Anton. And you know what? He said something, and I could even look at it in my own life in different scenarios. I talk about the several years that I went on a career path away from professional wrestling and then coming back and then getting a second opportunity to do it again. You get away from the burnout, you get appreciative. But what Anton said is he took his injuries as a sign from God that he wasn't taking full advantage of everything. So now he does. And honestly, I can totally understand and dig that mentality 150%, man. The second time around, you go, man, I can really appreciate it, man. It's not doing the whole you have to lose it to get it, to get it back, but it is. And maybe you weren't making the most of it, but you sure do the second time around, and I can dig that third time around for Anton. But he's not only having a great season, he had a big game as he helped the Vikings here, as did Charlie Lee. Grady had 22 points and 4 rebounds yesterday. Charlie Lee, Saturday, 27 points. And Cleveland State shot 62% from the field. They were off and running as they beat Wright State 88-72, became the first team in the Horizon League to win 9 games in the conference. Vikings are now up to 15-10 on the season, 9-2 in the HL, half a game ahead of Valpo, half a game ahead of Green Bay. They knocked the Wright State Raiders down to 11-13, 3-7. In the conference. Trey Lewis dropped 15. Andre Yates added 10. Marlon Mason still getting himself back in the flow. 6 points, 8 boards. Vikings went to town. 88 points. A season high for the Vikes. That 62% was 30 of 49 on the floor. Vikings, though, a couple of times you could see Coach Waters probably not too happy with the let-up, as they had 15 and 10-point leads throughout the game. Did the Vikings? They let each one get cut all the way back down to 4 before building them back up. Something to keep an eye on there. But Vikings continue to get hot. Now they've got some more national TV exposure coming up at the end of this week. They're going to be live on ESPNU, CSU, Detroit, 8 p.m. It's a road game for the Vikings coming up. Friday the 13th here coming up for them. Can they make sure it's not a horror movie come to life here? Go get the victory against Detroit. We'll talk some more about that later this week. And again, I'm going to get Coach Waters here on with us soon enough as well. Vikings with the victory. Buckeyes victory over the weekend. Took care of Rutgers 79-60. D'Angelo Russell had a triple-double in that one. 23 points, 11 boards, 11 assists. And Buckeyes were just all over. I mean, they were up on that one nearly 20 points at halftime, and there was no looking back from there. Just kind of played it to a standstill in the second half, but they were up 44-26 were the Buckeyes over Rutgers at halftime, and for all intents and purposes, that game was all over. But the dancing, as they say, Bucks with a 19-point victory, and D'Angelo Russell just continues to make himself more and more attractive to scouts all over the place. A lot of talk that was perhaps his best overall performance. We've heard that several times in the last few weeks. That's when you know when a guy is getting him each week. He's having a game that people go, hey, that may have been the best he's been. He's really peaking, not just tournament time from that perspective, but peaking at the end of his season, just in time for you-know-what coming down the pike. That triple-double for D'Angelo Russell was the first triple-double for anybody in the Big Ten since Draymond Green, who now plays in the NBA. He had one back on March 6th of 2012, so it's been a couple of seasons since there was a triple-double in the Big Ten. Let's see. Also hockey over the weekend. Big crowd down at the Q, by the way, for Cleveland Cavaliers night. The other night, unfortunately, didn't work out too well for the Monsters on the ice as they dropped a tough one to Hamilton, 4-0 whitewash, coming off of an emotional victory in overtime. The night before, they knocked off Toronto 4-3, but following up with a tough one there to Hamilton. Got to shake it off as they've got to get right back at it tomorrow. We'll see if Doug may join us on Wednesday in between the two games. Either way, they've got Charlotte twice at the Q tomorrow, and then again on Thursday in between. Cavaliers host the Heat, so there's 3 big events at the Q, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday coming up this week. So we'll talk some more about Charlotte, first one here tomorrow, but tough way to end that with the big crowd, the Tristan Thompson bobblehead, Cavaliers jerseys, all of that on Saturday night. I saw Charles in the chat room there. Blue Jackets as well did their thing over the weekend. 7-1, they knocked off St. Louis. 4-1, they beat Ottawa. 11-2 combined score over the weekend. Now they play tonight home against the Kings. 7 p.m. puck drop there as well. All right, guys. Man, we're up against it. Anything else? Let's check. Chickity check. Everything's been taken care of today. Tomorrow, have some fun with Jeff Gorman from Indians101.com. He'll be in the house. We'll pick up some of that Tribe conversation from today and continue the countdown, getting us closer to some Tribe baseball. Dr. Football, Bill Checkus will be in the house. Talk some NFL. I'll talk a bit about Greg Hardy some more and some of those investigations going on. Whatever, man. We'll see where that goes with Dr. Football. Doug Plagans, maybe he's here, maybe he's not. You'll just have to be here to find out. I have no clue. He is always here on Tuesdays, but when they travel on Tuesdays, sometimes we make other arrangements. So don't kill me if Doug Plagans isn't here tomorrow, but we'll see. We'll get him here either way. Talk some Monsters hockey. So, guys, a lot on tap, whether Doug's with us or not tomorrow. Guys, thank you for being with us today. Again, thanks to Dan Wismar for joining us. Tomorrow, we've got Jeff Gorman, Dr. Football, perhaps Doug Plagans, and you, baby, live. Same bad time, same bad channel, noon, right here across the Sports Fix Radio Network. We love you, Cleveland and beyond. Have a great night. Come on back here tomorrow and get your fix, baby. Let's do it. Sports Fix tomorrow. We'll see you then.
Any city that we visit, when you're from Cleveland.